Hey guys, another week of fundraising for Save the Children is over, and in this video I actually wanted to talk about something that helped me a lot in this week, because this week was my most successful week, but it was also the most consistent week in terms of numbers, like new supporters I found, and usually it's more of an up and down, and my last week actually it went down till the end of the week. But first, what the plans for today. So we stayed this week in Hannover, and I'm now at Hannover Central Station. Now I have an hour free time, which I'm gonna use to make this video, and then I'm gonna be picked up by my team leader for the next week, and then we're gonna drive to Cologne, and there I'm gonna have only 4 days, Monday through Thursday, because then I'm gonna be on the TechCrunch Disrupt startup event in Berlin. Which is awesome that they allowed me to do half a week, so that I can go to the event but also don't have to leave off a whole week. So that's the plan, going to Cologne. But what actually helped me a lot this week, which happened last week, was that my conversation. So when fundraising, you talk to a lot of people and you mostly say the same thing over and over again, because you introduce the charity, what they do, where they are, when they were founded, the structure, you show the project, and it's mostly always the same project. And so what happened to me is that I was getting tired of my own conversation, because I listened to my conversation so many times that to my ears, my own conversation sounded boring as shit. And the thing is, as soon as that happened, my numbers also went down. So people weren't interested in it anymore. They weren't willing to support the charity anymore. And I thought, how can that be? Because the conversation, like the words I say, are still the same. And for me it sounds boring, but to them it can't sound boring, because they haven't heard it as many times as I have. So it must be the other people, it must be bad luck, because the words are exactly the same. But I realized it's about how you make people feel. Like in the conversation, it's not about the words you say, it's how what you say makes the person feel. And that is mostly about how you feel, because when I am bored of what I say, even though the words are exactly the same, then it won't come across the way it should be. Like, the other person will subconsciously notice that it's nothing interesting, because the way I bring it across is as if it's nothing interesting, because that's how it sounds to me. So I realized that the only thing I have to be aware of to know if I'm doing a good job is how I feel personally in the conversation. Like when I'm bored while I tell it, it won't work. When I feel not interested, they are not interested. If I rush through it and I think there is no causality behind what I say, even though it is causality, but for me it doesn't sound like it, because I'm just repeating it over and over again, then to them it doesn't have causality. So this is something that helped me a lot. It's not about what I say, the words I say, it's about how I say it, and mostly how I make them feel. But you never know how you make people feel, especially if it's only a very short conversation, like 5 minutes. You don't know how the other person will feel. So the only proxy that I now need is to just feel how I feel while I have this conversation. And then I know how the other people will probably feel. Not all the time, but most of the time. And now my arm's getting weak again. And so I think this is actually something I realized last week. And this is also what enabled me to have this successful week. Like, this week was completely on fire. Like, without a doubt, by far my best week. And also very consistent, because I never had these up and downs. Every day was dun, 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 dun. That didn't make any sense. And now the camera angle is getting lower and lower because I can't hold my arm anymore. Look who's there. Okay.